Well, probably the biggest challenge in this domain is that there is a lot of data, so that should be an opportunity, but it's also locked in many different databases. It's scattered all over the universe, so to speak, and it is also stored in many different standards. So bringing data together is really very challenging. Bringing data together in itself is not so challenging, but making it harmonized, so to bring it together in a harmonized fashion is really challenging. That's one. Second is that in real world, a lot of the data is held in free text. So going forward, we definitely will have to find a way to text mine these nodes, but obviously to make sure that they are properly anonymized as well, which again in free text is an additional challenge. And then to make sense out of that. So extracting structure from this unstructured information will be really challenging. The short-term actions, I would say, have to be focused on implementing what is already available. I mean, this is a domain which will continue to be in evolution. I mean, we will see continuous innovation in this domain, but there is already a lot of solutions available. And I would like to see much more consistent implementation of maybe some of the less challenging data elements which are available across all of these EHR systems. If we could create a federated environment with an accepted standard or a limited set of standards in such a way that we can start to query these data sets through a federated network, I think that would already offer a lot of value. So starting with a narrow scope is probably what we need in the short term, kind of to prime the pump, so to make sure that we get the system to work and that people also see what the benefit can be, so that we can start to show value by working like that. And of course, central to this is what is the problem that we are going to solve. So focusing on one or two or three very clear use cases would be, I think, helpful in showing the way forward, and we can then gradually build on top of that, go into the more complex issues. So start with the lower level, less complex data elements, and then gradually add more complexity as we grow. Within EMIF, as a project, we are indeed also developing such a federated network of data sets. And we are adopting a common data model. So we are adopting the OMOP common data model, which was developed in the US, but is being leveraged now in Europe and Asia. And that common data model consists of a SNOMED layer, a LOINC layer, an RX norm layer, and so on and so forth. So one of the biggest challenges that we are encountering now is that we need to map all of these local data sources to these common vocabularies, to these controlled vocabularies. So a big benefit for a project like EMIF would be if more of these data sources obviously have their mapping already done. That's one. Second, we often find data which is already structured, which is already codified, available in a data source, but it's not then necessarily the code that we are using or the vocabulary we are using. So mapping files would be very useful. And then the biggest challenge I see at this point in the short term are all of the procedures, so medical procedures which are currently also being codified, but primarily from a reimbursement perspective, so claims type of data. And these are always national lists. So every country, every region has its own specific set of medical interventions that are available for reimbursement. And that's a challenge because you have the idiosyncrasy there of each individual country that you then need to map either to a SNOMED or to a LOINC type of vocabulary. If that were available, if every country would work on its own mapping into SNOMED or ICD-10, that would make our life a lot easier, actually. it's really time to move from innovation to implementation. Let's get something done. Let's focus on a narrow application. Let's prove the value in a narrow, focused use case, and let's broaden it from there so that we really have a feeling that things are happening, that things are moving forward.